Given your background, do you think the money printer is going to be on soon?
Governments have a bad habit, I think, of just printing money over and over again and to kind of get us out of trouble at times. And I think long term, it leads us to more trouble, right? We have almost $40 trillion in federal debt in the United States. And is that sustainable? I don't know.
What indicators can we learn from large trading platforms that may show us where markets are headed next? eToro is here to join us today to discuss this theme and the financial market system. Andrew McCormick is head of eToro US. I'm David Lin.
Bonnie Chang from Bonnie Blockchain.
Andrew, so good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Joy to be here.
You just had a panel and that talks about retail investors versus Wall Street. This cycle in crypto, we hear that people do not like VC coins because of different reasons. Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, this is a topic I'm probably too nerdily excited to talk about because I come from Wall Street. I was a Bitcoin fanatic and loved it. And it was a hobby, a passion. And I was working at a large Wall Street bank. And I decided about 3.5 years ago to turn that passion into a career and made the jump to eToro. But I love the fact that I lived in both worlds. And sometimes these worlds are a little feisty and they don't like each other. But I'm a big believer that in the world of crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain, we have a huge opportunity ahead of us and a lot of challenges and a lot of obstacles. And sometimes we're building the airplane as we're flying it. And the more people we can have in the Bitcoin tent, the Bitcoin party, the blockchain family, I think is helpful. So whether that's an OG libertarian, like Bitcoin is going to change the world, or if it's a new novice investor who've heard about it, or a Wall Street firm who wants to build and innovate, like welcome everybody, because we're trying to change the whole financial system and it takes a lot of people to do that.
Can you describe the difference between, Wall Street and retail investors? How do they invest differently? The psychology behind this?
Yeah, so I think, in retail investors, there's probably more emotion. Right? So like if you see stuff going up, you're more likely to get excited. And if you see stuff going down, maybe you panic, maybe you sell quickly. Most of my financial investing regrets are tied to emotion. I sold Bitcoin at $3,000 once. And, at the time I was like, okay, I got out because it had gone down and dipped back up. And I regret that at the time. Now, whereas Wall Street, they have teams of traders, scores of data, and there's probably less emotion because it's not your money. It's not your retirement accounts, your kids' college savings. So less emotion. But I think I love the fact that a place like eToro, right, where people can not just invest in crypto and stocks, but you can see tons of data, what other people are doing on the platform, their performance, people sharing ideas. I think that's really helpful to make more thoughtful decisions, not always driven by emotion. And I think this is the huge opportunity with AI, that a retail user can take shortcuts in terms of all the data out there, learn quicker, learn faster, and maybe take a little bit emotion out of the investing game. It can make it more fun, but also a little more dangerous at times.
Michael Saylor, a couple of days ago had a panel and he said, if you go on a street and ask 100 people if you should do something, and if 99 people say, do it, don't do it.
Powerful, yeah.
But what about the data thing? So if you see everybody is doing something, does that mean don't do it?
I wouldn't go. It's hard to disagree with Michael Saylor, right? He's very successful and does so much for our industry. But I think sometimes it's good to be different and unique, right? I love in my own life. I like being a bit of a oddball, like wearing bright clothes at a conference, financial conference, and those kind of things.
You and Max Kaiser need to have a wardrobe show off.
Okay, all right. I love it. But so following the herd can be dangerous at times, but at the same time, if a lot of people are doing something, it doesn't mean it's automatically right, but maybe it takes some of the risk down. But if you are a believer and you're set on something, stand your ground, be yourself, don't follow the herd. But if you're like a new investor, you're new to this space, you're checking things out, see what other people are doing, learn what they're doing, learn from their mistakes like mine, right? And I think eToro is a great place people could do that, and maybe you grow in your confidence this time, and then you can make those stands in unique positions. So.
We're going to talk about your IPO that happened in May. But before that, I'm just curious, how much of eToro's current trading volume is crypto, and how has that ratio changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, a large majority of it is crypto, but we're really proud of the fact that it's becoming more and more diversified each month, each year, each week. Right. So in the US alone, a couple of years ago, it was 100% crypto. Early 2022, we started stocks and ETFs. And then later in 2022, brought on options trading. So in the US, it's probably about half now. Whereas a couple
It's
years
interesting
ago,
because a lot of other companies like Robinhood, for example, started with the reverse. They were multi-asset with traditional financial products and then expanded to crypto. Why was this strategy different?
Yeah, I think because we're OGs in the crypto space.
Okay.
We started doing Bitcoin trading in 2013, a long time ago. Our founder, Yoni, he was actually at the very first Bitcoin conference a long time ago when it probably fit in this room as opposed to the giant stage room out there. So I think crypto is like our heartbeat, our DNA, but we're passionate about capital markets and giving investors choice and freedom, and along the way added more asset classes. And I think if we're talking in 2 more years, I think we in the US will have added even more asset classes to just give people that diversified offering. But we're passionate about crypto, and it'll be a huge part of what we do. But over time, I think the percentages will go down just because we're doing more and offering more services to customers.
You know, a lot of people say crypto people are more, they hunt the risk. They want the risk. Is that what you're seeing on your platform? Crypto people, they tend to do crazier stuff, but stock people, they're more conservative. Is that what you're seeing?
I think it's a mix of both. There's definitely the YOLO traders, which I think is cool. Like if you want to just take a small part of your money and take a big gamble and hope for a better life, that's cool. I think people should have that empowerment to make those kind of choices. I think what's really exciting to see, especially in the last couple months, are people taking more risks, but they're very thoughtful about it. So earlier in the year, one day when the NVIDIA DeepSeek news came out and NVIDIA stock crashed, like suddenly I had like a lot of trading volumes in NVIDIA that day. And I think as people are thinking like, hey, I think the market reaction is wrong here. Like this is a great company with a great history, and a news story came out over the weekend of maybe a new company that's a threat out there, but we're in this for the long term. So let's buy our favorite stock at a big discount suddenly. And in the last couple months with tariffs on, tariffs off, some tariffs on, all the noise and chaos, a lot of our users were really thoughtful about buying a dip and taking that risk, which is really cool to see, because a lot of times people see retail investors as maybe sheep or dumb money, and these kind of like words that people look down at us as normal investors. But we're a smart group and we're thoughtful, and you take risk, and that's not a bad thing.
Total crypto market cap surpassed $3.5 trillion recently. Total daily trading volume hit $171 billion, so new all-time highs. How much of this is speculative mania versus sustainable growth? In other words, are there indicators on your platform in particular that would indicate people are taking longer-term positions, or are they short-term trading? Yeah,
we have a lot of buy and hold investors. And going back to the prior comment, like I think people are being very thoughtful, right? So if you see your favorite crypto or your favorite stock or your ETF have that big price decline and you're passionate about it, like it's a great time to buy it, to get it on sale. And it's the same concept if you go to your favorite shoe store, clothing store, food restaurant, and stuff's on sale, you get excited, right? And you're like, this is the pair of shoes I wanted, and suddenly it's 10% off, 20% off. Like, this is a great discount. And I think more and more retail investors are starting to think about stocks in the same way. So you're passionate about a brand, a company, and suddenly, because of some news, the price goes down. But I'm committed to it in the long term. Let's scoop it up.
So what you're saying is general sentiment is still bullish
overall.
And
absolutely.
People are buying dips.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
And sometimes there's more dips than you want, but we see people keep buying the dips over and over again. And I think that shows that there's this long-term bullish sentiment. And especially in the crypto space, you have these like true believers, right? Who are like, I'm committed to this asset class and I'm going to buy as much as I can, as often as I can.
What type of metrics do you look at that tells you we are about to head into a bear market?
Oh, I wish I knew that. I think, you see different times where maybe there's less dip buying, right? And less trading activity. Today we have one of the biggest companies in the world is announcing their financial results, and it'll be very interesting to see the market reaction to that. And it was, especially the last couple months, there's a lot of the buying of the dips over and over, but each time it got a little bit less, right? With each tariff news, but then we saw a huge spike up. And in crypto, I think it's telling where we will have these quote unquote crashes, right? But I remember when a crash went from 20 to 3,000. In the last couple months, we've gone from 110 down to 78, right? And the fact that these lows are repeatedly higher, I think, is encouraging. I think an important sign when we start seeing new lows that are going the other way, right? If Bitcoin in a couple months from now crashes to 73 instead of 78, and it recovers and it goes to 66 and so on. But markets go up, markets go down, but the general trend in the last few years especially is a line going up and to the right.
I suppose if people buy a lot of short selling instruments, if the put call ratio is high, if the volume for, let's say, inverse ETFs is high, that could be an indicator, but you're not seeing that?
There's some of that for sure, but the overall sentiment, and we see that both in trading data, but we also do these quarterly surveys called the Retail Investor Beat, where we're going to thousands of retail investors and asking them the topics of the day, whether it's politics, markets, technology news, AI. And we see that in those results as well in these surveys that people overall are bullish and encouraged. And I think because we've lived through a lot, right? Like a lot of retail investors today, you probably heard about or you lived through the financial crisis and these huge, scary, bad times. And then people who's, they're committed and invested in those moments, like did really well in the last 15 years. Even during the COVID era, right? World's falling apart, it's chaos, it's crazy, markets take, and then we saw what happened. And so even when bad news is coming, I think people get like, over the long run, markets recover. Entrepreneurs are doing amazing things in our country and around the world, building cool stuff. And that's encouraging.
Given your background, do you think the money printer is going to be on soon?
Yeah, good question. Governments have a bad habit, I think, of just printing money over and over again and to kind of get us out of trouble at times. And I think long term, it leads us to more trouble, right? We have almost $40 trillion in federal debt in the United States. And is that sustainable? I don't know. But I suspect the printer will be turned on at some point again. And I think that's where the huge value of Bitcoin lies. And that's how I got into the space. My dad is he's a true believer and doesn't like money printing and all this kind of stuff. So ironic, it's my dad who got me into Bitcoin. Usually it's like the opposite.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, so he retired and he found YouTube. But YouTube, this is like 2013. This is not like when YouTube's new. And, he found himself down the rabbit hole of two different things. And one was Bitcoin and the other was pickleball. And so in 2013, my dad is talking about Bitcoin all the time, talking about pickleball all the time. And I didn't know what any of this was. And for years and years, he's like, this is awesome. This is great. Do this. Now, my dad, I guess is very fashion forward. And I never knew, was right about Bitcoin and right about pickleball as it's consumed the whole world. And tennis courts are becoming pickleball courts. And so he got into this space for this money printing kind of and deficit concerns. And that's what originally got me into the space because I love the idea it's a currency built by people, operated by people, and not just a handful of people in the government. So.
eToro's IPO, let's talk about that. So 11.9 million shares offered in May. Has this changed your strategic priorities at all now that you're publicly listed on the NASDAQ?
Yeah, not a huge change. It's been a huge goal for us for a long time, and it's something that's I think especially important and special to us because we are a platform that's been breaking down barriers to investing around the world for 18 years and trying to make capital markets accessible to everyday investors. And so it is a great honor and joy to become a publicly traded company that even our users can invest in. So that is a big moment for us.
What's the trading volume of eToro on eToro?
We haven't looked at that some, okay. But we can't talk a ton about stuff around our stock. But
all right,
but it's really special to think the customers who've been with us some 18 years are now owners the very company. And I think that's a powerful moment. But in terms of our priorities, like, we want to empower investors, create products that help people get engaged and make financial markets more accessible. And whether we're publicly traded or a private company, those priorities are still the same, but maybe it gives us more opportunities to do some more cool and innovative stuff when you have capital markets behind you.
How do you pick what to list, especially when it comes to meme coins and altcoins?
In the crypto space?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a very diligent review committee and process where first we do the technical review and learn about the founders, the assets, the protocols, the governance, the history, their social media, and lots of factors, right? And then we take it to not just the business and tech folks, but the legal and compliance people who weigh in and look at it through a different lens to make sure this would be an appropriate asset and it doesn't violate any laws. And here in the US, that's a bigger topic than in some other jurisdictions. So we look at it through that lens as well. And things like the market cap, the liquidity. And once it goes through those various processes, we will list it on the platform, and we're proud. As of yesterday, we've added 12 new crypto assets to the U.S. platform, hoping to do more and more in the coming months and years. But then we continue to do monitoring as we go. It's not just a list it and forget it. We have ongoing processes. We're looking at negative news. We're looking at liquidity, trading volumes, to making sure that the things that we're offering our customers are appropriate and not scandalous or anything like that. And it's their choice if they want to use their money to buy them or not.
Do you care about trading volume and narratives? Meaning a lot of exchanges in Asia, they kind of copy each other. So they see that you list something and the trading volume's crazy, they'll list it right away. Do you do that, or is the culture different?
Yeah, we definitely look at peer firms to see what they're doing, and I think that's an important benchmark, but it'll never be our deciding factor. And so that's an important element, and I think especially on the legal, compliance, regulatory, it gives you added comfort if all your peer firms are doing the same thing, almost like a check the box in the sense of okay, I think our diligence analysis is landing in the right spot. But we're proud to offer globally 120, I think, crypto assets. In the US, we're now at 15 and growing. And we'll look to our peers, but when we believe something's right, and goes through the right process, we'll certainly list it.
You know how I picture crypto degens day? They'll be in pajamas and they'll be in front of their computer all day. And what is your day like? Because you are in crypto, but you're also in Wall Street. How does that two world combine?
Yeah, my day is crazy. I have 4 precious kids, and so my days start really, really early, and we have lots of different bus pickups and bus stop duties. So usually it ends with some kind of starts with kids chaos, and we have a global team around the world, and so a lot of very early mornings and meetings. And I love living in both worlds. I love hanging out with the crypto degenerates, which they embrace, right? And that's kind of my origin story in crypto. But I also love going to Wall Street events and talking to them about it, educating them about the platform, the protocols, the opportunities. And it's super cool to see the evolution on that side. Just in March on St. Patrick's Day, went to one of the largest banks, one of the oldest banks in the world, had a crypto St. Patrick's Day happy hour in New York City. This is not happening last year. This is not happening the year before. And seeing that evolution and change, I think is really exciting. Some of the degens don't love it, right? Of Wall Street coming into the space. But like I mentioned before, the bigger we can make this movement, I think it's going to be better for the whole community.
The Genius Act passed on May 20th, stablecoin bill. Has that affected trading patterns on eToro at all?
Not yet. So at least in the U.S., we don't offer stable coins. Certainly something in the future we would like to do. And, it's nice to see some crypto legislation advance. There's still some final hurdles for it to actually get passed and put into law. But I've been in this space since 2017. And I think every year I've told colleagues, friends, peers, family that I think crypto legislation is coming this year. And I've been wrong the last 7 years. But I'm convinced this year it's going to happen, and that is a huge opportunity for the industry, because right now a lot of our laws here in the U.S. are based from the 1930s. right? And you'll hear in the US, like the Howey test and the Howey case. This is a 1946 Supreme Court case about orange trees. And how we're putting stuff like crypto assets and meme coins into that kind of structure, it's not healthy or productive. So definitely eager for legislation, thoughtful regulation. I think it's going to be a massive moment for the industry.
Well, can you give us some examples of maybe some challenges that you faced regarding listing from the SEC or even CFTC that you can comment on, and how eToro has overcome these challenges?
Yeah. So we settled a case with the SEC last fall, right? The SEC under the prior administration sued a lot of firms, right? And we made a decision to settle it and move past it. It was on a neither admit nor deny basis. It was voluntary. We thought, let's just move past this, and we want to go through the IPO process. We'll focus on that. And then when the time is right, we're going to go through our crypto diligence analysis, this Howey test and the different factors, and start listing crypto assets again. So as part of the settlement, we went from originally 27 crypto assets down to 3. Now we took a big step yesterday, adding 12 more, so we're up at 15. And the goal is to keep adding more and more assets and give customers those options, just like we do overseas in other countries where we're over 100 different assets.
A lot of companies IPO'd. Well, not a lot, but several companies in the crypto space IPO'd in the last month, including Circle. Coinbase didn't IPO, but they joined the S&P 500. This is just interesting timing. Can you just comment on that? Coincidence or not?
Yeah, so Circle, they've announced it. They've announced their filing. They haven't done their actual IPO as well. But I think it's a huge moment where we're seeing this world of like crypto and traditional finance are merging. And I'm really passionate about being one of those connectors to help to close those gaps. Because I think in 5 years, like the panel I spoke on earlier, like Wall Street and crypto investors, or Wall Street and crypto and blockchain, it's not a panel anymore. It's just finance. It all is going to merge into one. But eToro, our IPO, we're really proud to be one of the first IPOs in the crypto space, but also fintech space in a long time. Since I think Robinhood and Coinbase were 2021, and there really hasn't been any since then. So we're proud to kick down that door, and we hope more and more firms will follow, because I think it adds more legitimacy, trust, and capital to an industry that can change the world.
When you say traditional finance and crypto being one, right? Back in the days, we used to hear people say, oh, Bitcoin is a currency and we will buy things with Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin becomes this store of value, digital gold. 10 years in the future, what would it look like when you say they kind of merge together?
Yeah, I think the biggest example I can think of is in the world of stocks and ETFs. So today, you might buy your Target shares, Nike shares, Apple shares, Chipotle shares, whatever it may be. I think 5 years or less, that's all on the blockchain. And what I hope happens is right now, like if you want to buy Chipotle stock and you put in your order and it goes to market centers or exchanges, and there's all this stuff behind the scenes, and someone else somewhere is like selling their shares to you. But I believe in a world one day, if I want to sell a share in a company, you want to buy it, I could just send it to you directly on a blockchain, not going through all these intermediaries and different firms. And we can do it any day of the week, any time of the day. And I think that's where we're headed. It's going to be hard to get there over time, but I think eventually, traditional investing is going to be on a blockchain.
Finishing off for me, I like to know what the future of exchanges is going to look like, specifically for eToro, for example. How are you integrating, let's say, AI into your platform? What kind of new features are you launching that will satisfy changing investor and traders' appetites? What's next? How are you integrating new technology?
Yeah, we're passionate about AI, and so we use it all the time behind the scenes. We even have hackathons where we encourage our employees to build cool stuff with AI. Give us ideas, and I think they even paid us $250 per employee to submit ideas, and so we are thinking about it constantly. I think the dream is at one point you're going to open an eToro app, and whether you want to just click the stock you want to buy, or you want to turn over to AI and let them suggest for you, I think that's going to be an option. The eToro is very uniquely situated because you don't just have trading data, but we have what people are talking about on the platform, what they're liking or commenting on different posts, what news articles they're sharing. So you also get that like social, emotional side. And we have 30 million registered users around the world, and that's a lot of unique data. And I think we're going to use that data in cool ways to empower investors who are looking for ideas, trends, opportunities, moments. Unfortunately, you can't always just snap your fingers and launch a product, especially in the US, because there's a lot of regulations. And
Can you give us an example of something that people are talking about? What's trending right now in that
feature? I think you're going to see probably overseas first and then eventually the US, like portfolios that are created by AI and that are driven by what people on the platform are buying and the timing. And it might be things that are positive sentiment, negative sentiment. So I think you're going to see AI driven portfolios and probably ideas where like if you show an interest in one stock, AI is going to populate like other trading ideas for you. But we just want to do that in a compliant and regulatory kind of framework matter. And exciting times ahead. And I think eToro is uniquely positioned for that. So
if I assume AI is this genius and everyone's using AI to trade, who makes money?
Yeah, so I wouldn't turn it over to AI quite yet. And this is last fall. I'm passionate about like my kids learning about investing. It's something like I didn't know anything about growing up. And so we actually had a family investing contest. We each had $50. We picked our favorite stocks, ETFs, cryptos. At the end of like a month or two, we saw who did the best. And actually had a ChatGPT portfolio as well. Wow. And asked ChatGPT, like, what would you invest in? And I'm proud to say, like, I won the contest, which isn't maybe saying a lot when it's a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, but actually beat ChatGPT as well. It was some plain vanilla type items of big DAO type only companies, and I think with AI it's going to help investors a lot, but you still got to make your own decisions and doing your own research. But AI can really help with that research and cutting things down.
I want to go back to our earlier question about how stock market will be on the blockchain. First argument I've heard people say is we don't need stock market on the blockchain. Second is Wall Street is not going to allow that because then you remove the middleman, which are the institutions. How do they make money? What do you say to that?
Yeah, things change really quick, right? So on eToro today, you can buy your favorite stock as little as $10, 0 commissions. This is unheard of like 6 years ago. So up until like 2019, almost all, other than one, all the big trading platforms in the US, some didn't have apps. You're still like on a desktop or talking to someone, but you'd have to buy stock. You pay like $8, $10 per commission. You have to buy a full share. And not accessible for normal investors. And that whole world now, 5 years later, seems ancient. So if you think like 5 years from now, something like, architecture of how it's set up today, I think is going to feel ancient. And Wall Street and financial firms will find a way to make money and look for efficiencies. When you have teams of analysts, you have that firepower to do just that. But it doesn't make sense that if I want to buy something and you want to sell it, it's got to go through like 20 different firms along the way. I should be able to buy and sell something like directly any time of the day. And it's going to be hard to build that, but I think eventually that's going to be our system.
I think that about does it. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
It's a great chat.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.